Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's the darkest timeline, so you're stuck with me for the day, I'm afraid. Today I'm talking about shopping issues. I'll leave that one there, and you can find out what that means by listening to the episode. Missing out on a gig, wasting a Friday night, and a lot of other stuff. There is movies and different types of computer games. No TV this week, I'm afraid. I've kind of dropped the ball a bit on that one, but again, I'll go through that in a minute. Before I start, please do consider like, share, subscribe, and comment. Leave a review where you can leave a review. Share the podcast around. If you think anybody's actually going to want to listen to this, maybe sort of slide it in their direction, and hope they don't take offence, I guess. Right, let's get started. Here we go. This is CookieCast, the darkest timeline. Decided to surprise myself again. I was going to do that the old surprise bitch, but I don't know. I don't think I want it to be the calling card of the podcast. I've done that job. I'm not doing that job. I've done that for today. Sorry, I'm updating my to-do list, which is, as we can all agree, podcast gold. I haven't done that yet. That's not getting done today. The other 6 things will have to wait at 9:25. Might have brought the list up, but it'll be on a workout. So, at time of recording, it was Black Friday last week, and today is Cyber Monday, so you can work out the date and stuff. Not that any of that really matters. Obviously, previous point in time, I'd spoken. It might have been last week, might have been the week before. I'd spoken about having a bit of a shopping issue. So, Black Friday rolls around just in time for me to be going through this. And I heavily prepared, through a variety of different methods. Got Steam account updated with money, Quest account updated with money, PlayStation account updated with money. Am I missing anything? So yeah, basically bought a load of vouchers. There's a method that I use for different vouchers for different reasons to get those vouchers cheaper. Load up the things, so there's money in the wallets or whatever each respective store refers to it as, and then wait. So I was ready. I was like, I went through my my Steam wish list, went through my Meta Quest wish list, went through any games that I'd sort of, we all know the phrase, had in the basket. So I am cocked, locked, and ready to rock for the point in time. This is literally how bad it is. I'd even checked what time The Steam sale went live because that was the one that I'd put the most money into and the one I was waiting for the most. I went through my wish list. I was like, honestly, I think 80% of this is getting discounted, and it'll be a heavy discount. Like, it's the biggest, one of the biggest Steam sales of the year. Blah, 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 blah. So, Steam sale. Let's start there. Steam sale rolls around. The hands down the most ironic part of it was the one game that I actually wanted. The one game that I'd missed a previous sale on was the one game that didn't get discounted. And in the end, I went, fine, I'll have to buy it at full price. Now, full price was £16. I'm not breaking the bank. I'm not bankrupting anybody here. But I could have had it for 12 when it was discounted. So, you know, £4 makes a difference. And then the rest followed. I bought 8 games. A couple of them weren't for me. A couple of them were for other people / family. Sometimes you buy a game where you're like, I'm going to get this for you because I think you will enjoy it, kind of situation. So there was that. And that was kind of the end of that, because a lot of, hey, buy this, it's cheap. Well, funnily enough, when you buy games a lot, your answer often tends to be, I already own that. So, I'm like, okay, let's let this one simmer for a little while. Maybe there's other things that will pop up. Although, let's face it, once the sale goes live, that's generally it. I was like, yeah, but there's other avenues. You know, there's places that will be like, hey, I don't know if you know, but this item that's in the Steam sale is the most insane bargain, and you might have missed it. And admittedly, there was 2 of those. I managed to buy all the Hitman games, or the first 5 Hitman games, before it turned into what it is now, for £3.08. So that was kind of that. Barring 2 other separate purchases, like say £3 worth of Hitman games, and another one that again wasn't for me. That was the Steam sale done. Okay, let's move on. Let's move to let's pick one at random. Let's do the PlayStation. Now, there's pretty much, if you go into the PlayStation store, there's pretty much a sale on the PlayStation at all times. And by sale, I do obviously mean almost no cheaper than anywhere else that you can buy full-blown games, box, disc, etc. So it makes literally no sense. Black Friday rolls around though. And, yeah, it's exactly the same. The PlayStation Black Friday sale was bullshit. But it's fine. I had a secret weapon. There was a game I wanted on the PlayStation store. It was an indie game, so it was going to be cheap anyway. And weirdly enough, and this might sound familiar, just before Black Friday, I'd previously missed a sale on this game. Again, it was £16, but it was $12 if you bought it in this random sale. And then that sale ended, and Black Friday started, and that game was full price. So I bought it at full price because, you know, when you see something on sale, you should probably pick it up if you're really that interested. Okay, but it's fine. It's all okay. Because there was a MetaQuest sale. And the MetaQuest sale was going to be good. Because basically, as far as your MetaQuest sales are concerned, they go, hey, here's all of our games for this much money off. And some games, it's like, oh, this game's £25. But it's got 40% off it. And you're like, I mean, yeah, I wasn't considering buying it previously, but for that much money, why not? There was a specific game I was looking for on the Quest, which I found, and it was that situation. It was £25, 40% off. Bought that. While I was there was another game, and I was like, oh, this kind of sounds interesting. I'd watched a video the night before, and was like, it's not in the sale. Because it's brand new out, but it is not overly expensive. So do you know what? I'll pick that up. And then a couple of days later, I was like, actually, there was a game in the sale that I'd seen and meant to go back to and look at. Went back, looked at it, and was like, yeah, I'll take a punt on that for, I think it was something insanely ridiculous, like £6, £8, something. What did we learn? Well, we learned that I've now got all of this money in all of these different digital stores, which apparently have no use now because, I mean, that money in the PlayStation Store is going to sit there until the end of time at this point. And I know what you're thinking, well, maybe you should have looked at the sale first and then put the money in. No, I had a plan. I knew which games I was going to get. It was simple, elegant, easy peasy. Black Friday happened and those games went on to be really cheap in physical copies. So I asked Father Christmas for them. That's a whole other story. So now I've got money in the PlayStation wallet and no games to buy. Steam was literally like, hey, buddy, maybe if you didn't buy games all the freaking time, you'd actually have something to benefit from a sale. And I was like, you are correct. And then Meta probably in some ways came out on top. The only thing I will say is this, both Steam and Meta have games that I was planning on pre-ordering. I reached the point where I was like, sod it, I'll pre-order them, and then, you know, that money's gone to good use, etc., etc. So that's kind of that. What did we learn here? What did we learn from this? The learn here is, it's simply what I was saying. When you're buying stuff left, right and centre, when you hit a massive sale, there's nothing to buy. And you go, So, I then had to move on and I was like, what is happening here? You know, there's this, you hit this kind of weird depression. Like, it's this whole, like, you get these little dopamine hits by going, oh, I found a bargain. That's my big jam at the moment, like finding a bargain. That's all I care about. I found a bargain. It should be this, but it's not. It's this. And that means I'm winning at life. And I've had to sort of look at what is going on. I had this whole thing at one point where I realised that I could just, like, buy stuff for my children. I went through this previously. I was like, oh, I'll just buy stuff for the children, and then, you know, you're ticking the parenting box whilst also ticking that, essentially, that dopamine hit. I did a good thing. recently I'm like, why is it so bad at the moment? And I've realised I know exactly why it is as bad as it is. I know exactly why this is the way it is. I know exactly the reason. It's because there is this huge chunk of my life that I feel is out of control. I have zero control over it. And that's that. So, the other end of the scale, the other extreme is, if I have no control over this part of my life, well, I can control looking for bargains, finding bargains, purchasing bargains, winning at life because I found a bargain. But it doesn't last, does it? It is literally the definition of these dopamine hits. It's this, yay, I did a thing, and then next minute, next day, next whatever, you're like, I need to win at life again. Because ultimately, I feel that there's this big part of my life where I'm losing at life. And I think the biggest issue of it is that there's nothing I can do about it. And that feeling of being completely helpless. Nothing I can do about it. So, I've had an idea. I've had an idea of a way to resolve all of this in one foul swoop. And I think the answer is mushrooms. No, I'm not talking about the ones that go on a pizza. I'm talking about the magic variety. As we know, I listen to a lot of podcasts. In fact, I am about a day away from running out of podcasts. So much so that I signed up for Audible today. Sorry, I re-signed up for Audible because they bribed me with 3 months cheap and a voucher. And I was like, fine, I'll take you 3 months for cheap. I'll take your £10 voucher. I'll buy a load of books. I'll download a book with my credit. And I will cancel my subscription. That's right. So, yay me. But the podcast situation got that bad that I've actually run out of podcasts. This has happened before. This was why I started listening to audiobooks, because I was just devouring podcasts at a rate of knots. It then got out of hand going the other way, and I ended up with this monstrous podcast backlog. There we go. So, it will come as no surprise when I say I listen to a lot of podcasts. The number of podcasts recently that talk about microdosing, that talk about taking like a quantity of mushrooms and then going on a journey and coming out the other side and going, oh, I am fixed now. And yes, admittedly, this is America, where, you know, they're just legalizing stuff left, right, and centre, and good on them, as they should. So, everybody's microdosing mushrooms, or taking mushrooms, and being fixed. And I'm like, I'd like to be fixed. I'd like to fix what's going on. You know, you've got that whole, is it the DMT? Is that the toad stuff that makes you basically see, like, it's like travelling into a black hole. But I think we produce DMT in our own bodies. And then, you know, mushrooms. And there's like a variety. Like one of the other ones I've heard about recently is like, One of them's transcendental meditation, but there's another one that's apparently even like another one step further kind of thing. I feel like I just need some sort of like circuit break. I feel like I need something that's going to basically just stop this whole situation. Obviously, I don't want to have to do that myself. So, I need the help of some magic mushrooms. So if you know anybody, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Obviously, that is not the solution to this problem. I want to say middle-aged man, but yeah, I don't even know if that one's true anymore. Man, father of 4, can't exactly be like, hey, you guys are all right here. I'm just going to go and trip my balls off for a day on mushrooms to fix my broken brain. So, yeah, probably not the solution to the problem I'm looking for, but, yeah. The more podcasts I listen to, the more I think it might be. So, admittedly, I did think the easier, safer, whatever option you want to go with might be some form of meditation. But then I was listening to a podcast today where somebody was talking about getting heavily into meditation during the pandemic, and I was like, oh, I did that. And then they were talking about having like bad experiences with meditation, and I was like, yeah, I had that as well. So I kind of got out of that one. Yeah. I didn't go to my gig. It was a double-edged sword. I don't think I could have got there in all good conscience. I don't think I was able to drive to the centre of Manchester. I just, having driven to Manchester not that long ago and hating the last third of the journey, and let's not forget, the last third of the journey was like 12 miles compared to the 60 before it. To drive to the actual centre of Manchester, I was like, I can't. I don't think I can do it. I don't think I've got the mental capacity for it. On the flip side, I absolutely wasn't paying £40 to get on the train. So there was that. That was one side of it. The other side, and I understand how these things work, but the other side of it was, last week I did 6 podcasts. Didn't record 6 podcasts, I recorded 4 podcasts, spread over 3 days. But I coded and uploaded 6 podcasts over 3 days. There was a point where it was 20 past 12 and the video editing software that I use told me it was going to take, I think it was like 35 minutes to code a video. I was like, I've still got to upload that and get up at 5:45 in the morning. So that was a lot of fun. Don't ever mistake me complaining about podcasting. It's not like that. It's a different thing, which is very hard to go into. As I've already said, I love podcasting. I love doing podcasts. I love being part of podcasts. As with a lot of things in life, there are upsides and there are downsides. And one of the downsides is when you got up at 5:45, when you've been up since 5:45 and you've been doing stuff all day, and then you do like, well, 4 podcasts in the evening, knowing that you've got to get up at 5:45 the next day. It's, I mean, I don't really need to go into it, do I? That's fairly self-explanatory. So there was a part of me that was like, I don't think I had the time to go. And I've seen pictures of the tour, the gigs. I saw a picture of the night before, the gig from the night before, and I saw a picture from a gig from the last night of the tour. And I was like, yeah, look cool. I wanted to see the band. And I wanted to see the support band, which is unusual in a lot of cases. But I don't think it was possible. And it's another thing that's made me sort of reevaluate future endeavours. I bought the ticket for that gig in January. I look back, I was like, when did I get the ticket for this? I bought it in January. So January to November, everything changed, because I was like, I'm absolutely 100% going to that gig. I'm going to buy the ticket now. Job done. By the time I got to it, I was like, I can't afford the time, the money, or the brain space to afford me this gig. It was very much it had become too expensive. It had become too much to be able to manage. And sort of the lesser of the three was my life didn't accommodate it. Now in future, there's been a couple of situations recently where things have come up and I've looked at tickets for shows and gigs and things, and already I've had to look at them and go, well, I guess I'm not going to that. There was a gig that I was like, no matter what, I am absolutely going to go and see that band. Absolutely going to see that band. Right up until they announced one show in the UK, and it was Edinburgh. And immediately I went, I mean, that's a bit far to go for a gig. To drive, I've done it. But I don't think I'd be able to just go for a gig. And that was that. That was that tour done. One show in the UK. It's stuff like this at the moment. It's like, I don't know whether bands... Okay, here's another example. Give you a beautiful example. A gig was announced. Yet again, another one of those situations. 2 bands I wanted to see. The support band and the main band. Would have been a very big thing, because I would have looked at taking one of my children with me, which has its own complications. And that was where things started to change. Because obviously I've got to look at 2 tickets. So 2 tickets. When you look and the booking fee, charges and everything else added to it is the value of the ticket. So the price doubled. And obviously you're then doubling it again because you need 2 tickets. So what should have been £30 was £120. There was 1 show in the UK. 1. And it was a very long way away from here. So long and so far that, yet again, like the Manchester situation, even though it's further away, it would have been difficult, long and expensive to drive, but probably as expensive to get on the train. So you've got that. Then you're like, oh, well, you know, maybe because it's like a long way away, maybe you look at, I don't know, going over a couple of days. Get there, have a look around, spend some time, go to the gig. Next day, have a look around, jump on the train, come home. It's like a mini break. Yeah, obviously you have to add a hotel into that equation. Good one. I recently listened to a podcast that talked about how, and I think I've talked about this sort of at length, about they were struggling to sell tickets, and then saying about how times have changed, things are shifting, and people just, for whatever reason, aren't going out as much. And I've had conversations with people about how drinking's less of a thing these days. Like the youth of today don't drink as much as they did, 10 years ago or whatever. And all I keep saying to people is, yeah, but why? A friend of mine goes to the pub every Thursday and talks about the fact that he buys four drinks. I think they do rounds. There's four of them. He buys 4 drinks, and he always says about how he's lucky to get change from 30 quid. And whereas previously that 30 quid would have got him 4 sort of, it's not pints, the whatever measurement they are for like the wanky beers, but they're like 8 or 9%. 4 of those and you're absolutely shit-faced, stumbling home kind of situation. So you're getting your money's worth. You've spent 30 quid. You've had a night out. You've spent time with your friends. You've had 4 drinks of very strong alcohol, and you're off on your merry way. But now it's costing that sort of money, but the beer's not as good. It's just, 6 quid for, I think he was saying something about £6.50 for just some average kind of marginally wanky beer. Okay, that's 26 quid for 4. So you're not even getting the benefit of the really good alcohol. And I just, every time he tells me about it, I'm like, I honestly think you're insane. I could not think about committing the time or the money to that endeavour. It's just bonkers. And it just keeps going back to this kind of, everything's too expensive. And I get it, energy crisis, I get it, the corporate greed, whatever you want to say, but yeah. So, Monday to Wednesday last week, I'd missed a gig. I'd done 6 podcasts. Variety of other things, climbing and spending the day with my son and my youngest daughter and all of the stuff that normally happens. Thursday night is a danger zone. Why? Because Thursday night is possibly the most tired I am by that point in the week. So it runs the risk of all sorts of stuff. Thursday was Thanksgiving, so there was football games on to watch and stuff like that. And I was generally fine. Whenever it's been like a busy week, I always start planning the back end of the week out. So there's a lot of, this evening I'm going to do this, and this evening I'm going to do that, and this I'm going to do the other. And a lot of it is sort of like clawing time back, like your free time. I've always had this theory, like if you don't have your free time, you don't embrace your free time, you don't sort of cherish free, all of these sorts of things. It's the fastest way to insanity. And I stick by it years later. So, Friday night. Got through Thursday, watched some football, played some computer games, etc. Friday night. I was like, right. I had like a load of jobs, but weird, like not like, wash the dishes. I was transferring a lot of data. I got it's boring, but I got a new SD card for the Steam Deck. So I was transferring data between the SD cards. And I was downloading games to and you'll be surprised to hear me say this. I was downloading games to the Xbox. I know, right? So there's a lot of that going on. Running around backwards and forwards, swapping things over, making sure things were running, all of that. I sat down. I was about to put something on the TV. Liam was like, "There's a game on." Like, really? And it was like, yeah, I think it was like the Raiders Chiefs game. I was like, oh, okay. Put it on, and I hate live American football because of the sheer volume of adverts, and as we all know, I despise adverts. So every 2 minutes there's an advert. There's more adverts than there's football. It's tedious. So I'm like, well, I can do that, and then I can do all these other jobs as well, running around, etc., etc. There was a point where I didn't need to go and check the Xbox. I had the Steam Deck on my lap. It was transferring stuff. Football's on. Next thing, Leon's gone. Leon is not in the room. Leon's not in the vicinity. She is gone. I'm like, that's weird. I look at the score of the game. The score of the American football has changed considerably. And it's nearly at the end. And I'm like, working on the principle of the last time I saw the score, the last time I saw like how much of the game was left and stuff, and how long it takes to just play 15 minutes of a sport. I think it's probably considerably later than it was. I checked what time it was. The last time I was aware of what time it was like 9 o'clock. I checked the time and it was like 11:15. And I instantly was like, fuck. There goes my evening. But it wasn't just that. Because I've had a little nappy nap, haven't I? I've had a nana nap. I've had a nap between the hours of 9 and 11 on an evening. What's the one thing I'm not going to be doing anytime soon? That's right, I ain't going to bed anytime soon. I was like, shit. Okay. Can't use the Xbox because the Xbox is currently downloading the games I want to play. By this point, the Steam Deck had been on for like a day. I think it had been on at that point in time. I was like, I don't want to be putting the Steam Deck on to play a game having had it running for the best part of 24 hours. I'm like, okay. So I basically ended up sat at the computer with like YouTube videos on until like 12:30, when I'm like, I can maybe try and go to bed at this point in time. Toddled myself off while I was reading a book, like all of this. And I was just like, I was kicking myself so much. I was so angry. I was like, you have wasted a Friday night. A Friday night. Friday night is like diet Saturday night. Wasted No computer games played. No TV shows watched. No movies watched. Literally wasted. I was so angry. Saturday night rolled round. I was like, oh, we are fucking it up. I don't think I particularly did anything of real merit Saturday night. I always have these grand plans for my evenings and they never come off. It is the currently the 2nd of December at this point in time. Peek behind the curtain, blah, blah, blah. I took my 2 youngest children to go and do a job for the big man, if you know what I mean. I love going out at certain times because basically, if you go into a shop, that shop is going to do one of two things when you lean into the person that's dealing with you and you're like, I need to buy this item, but wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And they do one of two things. They have absolutely no idea what you're talking about whilst you just stood there with a collection of children going, if this was just put to one side real quick while I just distract these guys. And they're like, what do you mean? Or you get the complete opposite, which is, if I was to buy this right now, is there a way to not make it obvious that I'm doing that? And the other person's like, well, maybe you should come over here and look at this whilst I put that through for you and take payment. And maybe you could bring your children over here so they can't see what we're doing. And then you're like, that sounds like a fantastic idea. Thank you very much. So it's literally that. So took my 2 youngest children to go and do a job for the big man. And this was yesterday, the 1st of December. And even in my house, where the humbugs are barring, even in my house, it is officially that time of the year. It's December. We can celebrate Christmas to a degree. I'm pretty sure everybody I know has put their Christmas decorations up. Here's one for you. One to ponder. Is putting your Christmas decorations up early a ploy from energy companies to get twice as much money out of you in the month of December for your energy bill? Just going to leave that one there. So, 1st of December. And I spent my time wandering round where the shops were, in my head going, it's the most wonderful time of the year. Because everybody I saw was fucking miserable. When I am out and about, whether it's with children or without children or whatever, I generally try and be sort of like polite, helpful where possible, upbeat, I would say, is probably the best description. I try and keep my children in line. I try and keep them in check. I don't want them tearing around. I don't want them wrecking the place. If it's the lesser of two evils, like I ended up in a situation where I was like, oh, why don't you see if you can pick a good football? Now, I know that my children aren't going to go and start kicking footballs around the shop. But on the other hand, I have said the phrase, why don't you go and look at the footballs? So there may be a rolling of a ball situation. So, just got to be aware of these things. If you open a door for me, I want to say, thank you very much. It's very kind. Appreciate it. I'll then let the children go through all of this. I'll speak very nicely to anybody that may be serving. For example, if I go and get a coffee, I'll order it. There's lots of pleases, thank yous, that's wonderful, great, cheers, thank you, brilliant, wonderful. So even, on an average day, I try and be that little bit more upbeat whilst out and about. Oh my days. The most miserable I've seen anybody yesterday. We went into a well-known coffee establishment. In fact, speaking of drinking a coffee at 10 past 10 at night. We went into a well-known coffee establishment. We queued. Very nice. I didn't have to tell any children off. We stood, ordered our drink, and then went to wait. And there was a woman behind us in the queue. A little bit older than us, me, certainly. And I was like, this lady's a little bit older. She'll see two small children. She'll be like, look at these guys. They're being well behaved. Delightful. I, at one point, wondered if she was maybe going to put them in some sort of cauldron or oven, as apparently she was super miserable. I'm like, not everything's everybody's cup of tea. That includes children being out shopping at 10 o'clock on a Sunday morning, etc., etc. Maybe that's a one-off. Another point in time, I held a door open for a guy who was coming in. No, that's what I thought I'd done. What he thought I'd done was shitting his Sunday dinner, because the look on his face said that. And pretty much everywhere I went yesterday, I was like, why? If this is the best time of the year, there's a song that talks about the most wonderful time of the year. Why is everybody so fucking miserable? I saw a video. I keep saying to people about this. I saw a video. It was taken from, I believe, a bus, the outside camera on a bus that was driving across the top of the main street of York City Centre on Saturday. And it was absolutely rammed. And then it showed every subsequent street afterwards. And every single street was absolutely fucking heaving. Now again, bear in mind, wasn't even December at that point in time. I'm like, what is it we're trying to achieve here? Why is it that we're like, oh, this is the best time of year, it's great, it's wonderful, it's magical, all of those things that go with it. If so, why is everybody so miserable? I love Christmas. I love Christmas. Number of people that will tell me that I hate Christmas is astronomical. The number of people who will tell me I hate Christmas, off the charts. I don't get it though. I'm like, I love Christmas. But to me, that's a love because Christmas is sacred. It's a magical time. It's a wonderful time. But you put your tree and your decorations up, a couple of weeks before the day. And jolly, happy. These are words that are featured. Why is everybody so miserable? If this time of year makes you miserable, maybe we should give it up as a bad job. I've had to tell one of my children that I'm going to cancel Christmas going forward because apparently they save up all of their naughty behaviour for for December. And what made it almost funny was that they agreed. They were like, yeah, I don't really know what to tell you. It's a terrible time for me. I'm like, yeah, you're not the only one. Apparently you and everybody else. Everybody's miserable. Anyway, let's talk about some other stuff. Let's talk about some fun stuff. Haven't watched any television because the old man was not doing it for me. And I'm now in that limbo of I really need to finish this series and I really can't bring myself to finish this series. So there we go. However, after many days, almost weeks, I managed to finish the film I was watching, which was The Fall Guy. Now then, I, very much like Christmas, loved the Fall Guy TV series. Loved the Fall Guy TV series. The Fall Guy movie, I was excited. Very excited. Very, very excited. I have had to wait for it to come. I'd considered going to see it at the cinema. That's how much I wanted to see it. Didn't get to see it at the cinema. Then it came out of digital. And then I was like, well, I'm not giving you cinema money for a digital movie, so I'll wait for it to come down in price. It came down so far, and then I was like, sod it, I'm going to get it. So, what did we think of The Fall Guy? Honestly, the first thing that stood out to me was, in the multitude of trailers that I saw for that film, I had no idea that Aaron Taylor Johnson was in that film. No idea. So that was the first thing that stood out. Second thing that stood out was the fact that they basically did a movie to wrap around an advert for a truck. So basically they've done here's the original truck from the TV series. However, we're going to show you the updated version of that truck and all of its wonderful features. Yeah. Multiple times. That didn't sit well with me. There was a few points where I was like, I don't feel like you've pushed this film far enough. There's a series of things like, this is a film about stunt people, and I feel like you should really be sort of embracing that rather than doing a large number of the stunts and things like that on green screen. Because it looks shit. Rather than doing it with actual stunt people live and making it look good. But hey, that's me. I just felt like they didn't push it far enough. It was fun. It was enjoyable. I did enjoy it. The storyline basically written, to quote a friend of mine, basically written on a fag packet. There's one thing I will say is there is the guy who plays the head of the other tribe in the Black Panther films. He's in it. He is a giant human. I think it comes across in the Black Panther films. Wherever he turns up, he's big. You know, he fights Chadwick Boseman in the first one, and he's just a different species. Honestly, I'm like part bear. He's massive. And it really stands out in this, I think, because it's not a superhero movie. It's just a film about stunt people. He's huge. He's a giant human. And very good in the Fall Guy. Really, that's the sort of the dynamic between him and Ryan Gosling was very good. It was very enjoyable. It was good. Like I say, I've sort of outlined the things that I could have kind of done without. There was a cameo right at the very end. I think it might even be a post-credit cameo. And I am not too much of a man to admit that I actually out loud cheered when the cameo came up. I was like, fuck yeah, that's brilliant. No guesses who that might have been. I love the TV show. I really did. It was one of my favourites. Do I feel the movie did it justice? No. Do I feel that it went some way to doing the TV series justice? Maybe. Maybe. Right. Let's talk computer games. Hard to sort of talk about computer games at the moment for a variety of different reasons. Where do I even begin? A lot of the games that I've bought recently are gifts for Christmas. So although I've bought them, I've had to sort of shelve them. I've entered into a thing where basically I've got that much stuff Steam-wise that I'm in that kind of what do I play. Typically, the one game that I zeroed in on as yes, I absolutely want to play this, doesn't work past a certain point, which is super annoying and I can't find a fix for it. Another game that I'm like, I'm going to play that. It feels like it's a big game and it needs me to sit down and dedicate time to it, which good one. And then there was two other games that I went, yeah, I absolutely want to play those. Listed as playable for Steam Deck. Can't get either of them to work. So at some point in time, I need to go back and go, well, if you're listed as playable, how do I get you to play? Not going to lie, this is the absolute downside of this situation. It's categorically the reason that I've always shied away from PC-based stuff. I've always said the phrase, I don't ever want to feel like I have to hit a game with a hammer just to get it to work, which is why I always lean towards console stuff, because you press a button and away you go. See, nowadays there's less press a button and away you go because everything's broken when it's released. But obviously you've got that added thing with PC stuff where it's broken when it's released and it's also broken when it's fixed, if that makes any sense. Somebody, a friend of one of my daughter's parents was like, you got an Xbox? Like, yes. Why? Like, I've got a code for a month's Game Pass. Do you want it? Like, yeah, sure. So I got that, and I was like, oh, let's see what is on Game Pass these days. The game I considered buying was on there. I was like, cool, let's get that downloaded. And Call of Duty, the new Call of Duty. I swore I'd never play another Call of Duty again because they took away the campaign. Okay, it's a multiplayer game. I don't like multiplayer games. That's the end of Call of Duty for me. I religiously played every Call of Duty game up to that point. I seem to think it was a Christmas game. I could always ask for it for Christmas and be playing it Christmas Day. That's sort of my recollection of Call of Duty. So I got the latest Call of Duty downloaded Took all day. Installed. So, what do we know about this game? It's hard. Was another thing that sort of started creeping in when those games switched to a very multiplayer heavy model. There was a lot of, the game has to be hard because when you're training to play multiplayer, it needs to be hard so you can keep up. And my case was always, I'm not training to play multiplayer, and I've selected the easy option. So can I have it easy, please? So it's noticeably hard. It's difficult. There's a lot more. You die a lot. You have to reload a lot, and often reload you back further than you'd like. So there's a lot of that. On the other hand, it's kind of fun. Can't tell you when I last played one. Obviously, you've got that Modern Warfare Black Ops. I think this one's Black Ops 6, is it? I don't know. Something that's real interesting / weird is if you go into in the menu, if you go into the games section, you seem to have access to previous Call of Duty games, and you can just download them. Now, I got it through Game Pass, so I don't know if that's part of the Game Pass side of it. If you buy it on a disc, is it going to include all of those games? I find that hard to believe, because some of those games will be like 100 gig. It does give you the option to download like the specific bit. So if you just want the campaign, like I would, or maybe a bit of zombies here and there, you can have those bits and not download the multiplayer. And I imagine if you're a multiplayer game per player, then you could do it the other way around. I know people who have played Call of Duty for years and have never once put the campaign on. The big question is, would I give you £60 for it? The big answer is absolutely not. It's not enough of a game for me to part with 60 quid. Am I going to play it for free? Absolutely. It's set at a particular point in time. Probably the 90s. I think it's like 96. I think it's set 95, 96 sort of area. So not one of the sort of futuristic ones. But what's nice about that is the weapons are a bit more realistic, I feel. It's the first time I've really experienced Call of Duty doing a stealth option, which was interesting. Sort of like a silenced handgun creeping through an area, using like non-lethal gadgets and things. So that was cool. It's been fun, sort of. There's like a bit that I've done recently where they've gone with like an open world kind of approach. Like you've been playing like your standard Call of Duty, and then they were like, here, go and do this mission which involves you driving around the desert with a team of people. It felt very Wildlands to me. I like when games are like, let's try something different and see how that lands. I like it more if it does land, and I'm not sure how I feel about this one. It was fine. Did get back to sort of the more, what I would say is closer Call of Duty sort of missions. But it is hard. So there's that. VR perspective, I have purchased a series of VR games, as I said, and a series of those VR games are to be saved for Christmas. I'm going to pre-order a game not tomorrow the next day that comes out the day after. It's one of those. If Meta would just put the coming out on this day on the game page, I'd have pre-ordered it by now. Anyway, a game I bought, which I bought at full price because it had only just come out, absolutely did not ever think I would buy this game, because all I ever heard was people reviewing it and saying, basically, it's Prince of Persia in VR. I've played Prince of Persia games. Some of them I have thoroughly enjoyed. A lot of them I have not. There was a little shudder when someone was like, this is Prince of Persia on the VR. I went, ugh. And all I could think was, I bet that's awful. And what I mean by that is, it's just not for me. I'm not into platforming games. I'm not into you jump and fall to your death. I'm not into just all of the components of a Prince of Persia game in VR. My idea of hell. Not gonna sugarcoat it. The day after this game was released, one of my favourite VR YouTube content people was like, hey, here's this game I'm playing. And I'm like, I'll give you the chance to show me a video of you playing this game. And immediately it started. And they were like, this game is basically Prince of Persia in VR. And I'm like, that's why I have no interest in it. As the game went on, as the game unfolded, as this video went on and all of this, I'm like, this is absolutely not what I expected. There was like some powers involved. There was some like a weapon system that reminded me a lot of Asgard's Wrath 2 / God of War. There was like puzzles, but the puzzles didn't seem too taxing. The traversal seemed fairly okay. I was watching this video. So this video went on for between 20 and 30 minutes. Before the end of the video, I'm like, I am genuinely interested in this game at this point in time. It is nothing like I thought it was going. Literally nothing like I thought it was going to be. I go onto the store, I have a look, and it's there. And it was £20. Now, £20 isn't your AAA titles that have started coming out recently. Those games that are starting to creep towards the £40 mark. Your Metros, your Batmans. And these AAA games that are coming out at the moment. It's also not £8 to £10. So it's, it's getting up there. What you might say is a little pricey for a VR game. But from what I'd seen, I was like, yeah, but it looks like a proper game. A proper game. I ummed and ahed, thought about it and was like, I'm going to roll the dice. On the simple principle that part of a video / review I'd seen said, just remember, if it's not for you and you've played it less than 2 hours, you can request a refund. And I went, I'm going to buy this game. I'm going to play it for a little bit. If it's not for me, I will refund it. It's as simple as that. So far, touch wood, I have this fear that if I review this game, it's going to turn on me. It's happened so many times before, and I'm so afraid that I don't like to talk about it. And even now, I'm like, I shouldn't be talking about this. I shouldn't be reviewing this game before finishing it. So much fun. It has been the chef's kiss of games so far. Bearing in mind, coming off the back of playing Batman VR, coming off the back of Metro, staring down the barrel of Behemoth and Alien and all of these AAA games tucked in there, going unnoticed, under the radar, whatever, is Ember Souls. Prince of Persia in VR, but it's not. The people that have made Ember Souls have basically gone, here's all the games we've played recently. Asgard's Wrath, God of War. There's even... they've kind of stolen a mechanic. I use stolen loosely. They've borrowed a mechanic from Half-Life Alyx. A lot of it is, here's the VR stuff we've played, but some of it is, and here's some of the flat stuff we played. It feels, I've said this before with other stuff, it feels very much like the kid in the candy shop way of making games, where somebody's like, hey, what if we did this? Oh yeah, that sounds great, let's do that. Yeah, but then, what if we did this? And it's just that, like every now and then there'll be like a new mechanic and I'm like, oh no, that sounds awful, I don't want to have to learn a new mechanic. And then you do it and it's just fine and it works. There was a point last night where there was like, here's a puzzle, it's on a wall, there are 4 levers. I was like, fuck, this is where this game gets tough. Here we go. 4 levers, there's a piece missing. I found the piece almost straight away. Couldn't get it into the slot because it was too high up. Moved around, managed to get it into the slot. I'm like, okay, that's that bit done. There are 4 levers. There's no indication of how to solve this puzzle. Your bird companion keeps giving you sort of hints and things, but I'm like, I don't know. I honestly don't know how to solve this puzzle. Okay, I'm going to start with this lever and I'm going to press all the levers once. So I started at the bottom right corner and I went press, moved across one, press, moved up one, press, moved across one, press, and solved the puzzle. There are doors in the game where it's like you have 3 shaped cube buttons you can press to open this door. The first time you do it in the game, it gives you the answer. You look around and you go, oh, look, there's the answer. Every door since, I've just gone, the combination is 1, 3, 2. No, that didn't work. Okay, 2, 1, 3, and the door opens. I'm like, well, there you go. Fighting is fun. It's got that sort of blade and sorcery kind of. You can really get in there with your swords and your stabbing and your chopping off limbs, and you can chop a head off if you want. You've got these stones. The whole thing about the game is collecting these stones. The first one you start with is wind, which allows you to do swinging and things. Every sort of jump to a pole is slow. It goes into slow motion right at the end, so it gives you an opportunity to grab the pole. The next stone is water, which allows you to freeze stuff. I've recently picked up the fire stone. Shocking, it lets you set things on fire. I thought this 6-headed Hydra thing was like, I'm going to die. Didn't, killed it, got a stone for it. It's just been, in a lot of ways, such a complete breath of fresh air. A lot of stuff I find these days is you're playing it, it's like, oh man, this isn't good and that's not good. And this has been one of those games where every time I think it's going to be hard, every time I think it's going to be like, this is the end of this game for me, every single time that's come up, I've just moved on to the next bit. I've progressed. And I fully believe that I will review this game, and then the next time I talk about this game, I'm like, well, that backfired, didn't it? It got real hard and I've not been able to go back to it. As it stands at the moment, that has not been the case. And touch wood, I might be able to get it sort of finished in the next few days. We shall see. There we go. that is the podcast for this week. I will catch you next time. So there you go. What do you think to that? Another one done, another one gone. Another week closer to the end of the year. Where does that time go? Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Before you go, please do consider like, share, subscribe and comment. Leave a review where you can leave a review, and check out the website, thecookiecast.com. There we have social media links and an email button, and that way you can get in touch with us. That's it for this one. Until next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.
You've just listened to another episode of Cookie Cast. Thanks for listening.